Hey, thanks for joining me tonight, and hope that you're having an awesome week. We get some cool weather, then some hot weather, and just kind of going back and forth and such. This weekend, looking forward to Memorial Day weekend, and for some of you, you're going to be going away, and others, you'll be here with us, and looking forward to Sunday, have a special treat on Sunday for you, and so looking forward to that. As we look at Memorial Day coming forward, I want to reflect on that in the book of Joshua as well. Book of Joshua, in chapter 3 and chapter 4, that's what we've been going through, and I want to just kind of reflect on a couple things that were happening here with Israel. Joshua was leading Israel into the promised land. So he sends the spies in, and they check out Jericho, and they come back, and they report back, and they say, hey, God's given us this land. The people there, Rahab told us, they're terrified of what God can do. And they've seen what God could do years ago, 40 years ago, as a matter of fact, and they still believe that the same God that worked 40 years ago is still capable of working today. And so that was the report back, and Joshua has the whole camp there right next to the Jordan River. And in chapter 3, verses 1 and following, it talks there about where they were, and Joshua said, listen, it's time to go. In 3 days, we're going to cross the Jordan. Could you imagine? Listen, if we were sitting out next to the Delaware River, and I said, hey, listen, we're going to go across that, not on the Walt Whitman Bridge, not on the Betsy Ross Bridge or the Ben Franklin Bridge or any of the bridges. We're going to walk across the Delaware River, and we're going to do that on dry land. God's going to lead us right across. You would look at me and say, yep, not showing up for that, right? But Joshua says, here's what's happening. We're going across the Jordan River, and they all line up, and they're ready to go. Here's the cool thing. You go down to Joshua chapter 3, verse 14. So when the people set out from their tents to pass over Jordan with the priests, bearing the Ark of the Covenant before the people, and so they had a certain way of that they were going across. It says, as soon as those bearing the ark had come as far as the Jordan, and the feet of the priests bearing the ark were dipped into the brink of the water, now the Jordan overflows all its banks throughout the time of harvest. The waters, coming down from above, stood and rose up in a heap very far away. At Adam, the city is beside Zarethan, and those flowing down toward the sea of Arabath, the salt sea, was completely cut off, and the people passed over opposite Jericho. Now the priests bearing the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stood firmly on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan, and all Israel was passing over on dry ground until all the nation finished passing over the Jordan. What an incredible day. If you were there, maybe you have some kids or your friends or whatever, and you're lined up, it's a hot day, and you're just thinking maybe you can get a little bit of water and stuff, and we're going to pass over this. It'll be very interesting. And you have all of your kids and everybody sitting there, and you say, okay, you got to watch this. We heard about this. We heard this happen 40 years ago. Grandpa used to tell me all about this. But we're going to get to see it. No one would want to miss this. And could you imagine being the person that's in the front of the line? The priests go in carrying the Ark of the Covenant, and the first two people go and they put their foot into the water, and as soon as their foot touches the water goes up into a huge wall. What an incredible scene. As they're beginning to walk, the water just goes and it begins to build this huge wall of water next to them. I was at the Niagara Falls some years ago. What an amazing sight. Could you imagine the Niagara Falls going backwards? The water going up instead of down? That's what God was doing. So he does that, and they walk across on dry land. And the water's cut off down this way. What an amazing day this had to be for them. And the priests are carrying the Ark of the Covenant. They go out into the middle. They stand in the middle, and they just wait. I don't know about you, but if I were doing that, I think my heart would be racing the entire time. You know, this is going to be okay. I guess this is all right. And these fears kind of go through your mind as they typically would. And you calm them and say, God had it back then, he's got it here. And so then they do that, and it says in chapter 4, verse 1, when the nation had finished passing over Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, take 12 men from the people from each tribe and command them, saying, take 12 stones from here out of the midst of the Jordan, from the very place the priest's feet stood firmly, and bring them over with you and lay them down in the place where you lodge tonight. So I brought these stones, and maybe they would resemble the stones that these people would, the 12 people would grab. They would pick these up around where the priests were standing, and they pick them up and they carry them back with them and where they lodge, and I would assume that would be a little bit larger. They would take it, I would think, the biggest one they could possibly grab and carry. And they would carry it back with them to where they were lodging and place it there as the reminder, the memorial, the remembrance of what God had done that day. You know, so often we forget the things that God has done before. And so, church, I want to remind you to think back of one thing that God did in your life that was incredible. Just do one thing. Maybe you prayed for healing in a relationship, and you went, and all of a sudden God showed you how to work this out, and reconciliation happened. I can give you testimony after testimony in my life of things that God has done, where I literally prayed at different times and said, God, I am way in over my head. I don't know how I'm going to get across this Jordan River. So you're going to have to make a way. You're going to have to show me how to do this. I've sat with people that I'm like, I don't know how to even help in this. This is way outside of my realm of understanding what to do. And God gives me the right words in that right moment, or steers in people's hearts. And I just watch as God does some amazing things. I've watched as God's provided in ways that were just so outside of the box. I've watched as God's done so many amazing things in my life. And listen, I believe you as well could remember some times that you've seen God do some amazing things. He's changed my heart. I believe he's changed yours too, right? And so when you look back and you remember these milestone moments, right? You remember these stones that you grabbed out and you said, I don't ever want to forget this was a God moment. Not a me moment, not a them moment. It was a God moment. And you never forget that. The reason we remember and the reason we set our stones out is so that we remember when we're in the middle of the next challenge. Because too often we forget about how great God is. And we forget what it takes to just get through. Can I just tell you one thing that makes it really simple? The priests, what did they have to do to make the water go back? They had to take just one step of faith. Just one step of faith. Listen, church, I don't know where you're at, but maybe God has for you right now to take just one step of faith. What could God do? Not you. What could God do with that one little step? If he could part the waters in Jordan and let them go across on dry land, that one little step of faith could be what God uses to open up this huge whatever for you to get through and to do what he's called you to do. And maybe, listen, as we reopen as a church, I believe there's a lot of those little steps of faith that we're going to need to take together. And I believe as we take steps of faith, we will walk into that Jordan and take one step after another. And I believe God's going to bless. And we're going to see some new things happen in our church that we've never seen before. That's my hope and that's my prayer in the coming months. But it's going to take all of us taking one little step of faith at a time. Hey, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you'll prayerfully consider these things and look at what God has in front of you and remind yourself and remind each other to take that step of faith that God is calling you to take. Hey, thanks so much. Have a great rest of the week. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Thank you.